Singer D4vd case where Celeste was found in his Tesla has taken some wild turns, and maybe justice is on the way for Celeste. Maybe he's going to end up behind bars. I don't know, but a lot has gone on with it. So let's jump into it in today's video.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup at hey.
Now hold on everybody, let's do a quick sofa sidebar now. Keep in mind, ain't no cop, ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no therapist, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff, okay? Only credentials we got up in here is my sass, and this sofa. Now keep in mind also, I'm just giving my opinions on very public information, so do your own research, come to your own opinions, and drop them off in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you do like what you see here at the Sofa Squad, drop a little like, drop a little comment, drop a little share. It helps the channel out immensely. Now let's get edition. Hello Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. That's a sofa. It's a tassel. It's a button. My name is Paul if you're new to the channel, and if you're not new to the channel, my name's still Paul. Okay. Now, last video we left off with on D4vd was like kind of a deep dive into the timeline, the going-ons in the past, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So where I want to pick up today is kind of looking at just some odd coincidences of things and whatnot, and then talk about some of the recent things that have taken place in the case. So let's go ahead and just jump on them. So what I want to start doing is just look at a few things like some weird, music video content, odd jokes, things that just don't really make sense in hindsight. So there were some things over here that you can see up here, like the believed to be a photo of Celeste wearing the same sneakers. Then you see over here the viral TikTok of D4vd cleaning shoes that were really similar to those worn by Celeste. Then, he's got a lot of women in the music videos that just, they look like her. It's almost like he has this type. Okay, then there's the whole tattoo thing. So they each had this tattoo thing on their finger and whatnot, exact same location. Now, one thing about the tattoos that I've heard is that was like a kind of like a trend or a fad or whatever. So that one, even though it is really coincidental or whatever, it's also like a lot of people had that. So I'm taking that one more, not as hardcore, like, oh my gosh, but there's so many other things and coincidences that surround it that it just adds to it. Okay, so then on the next page here, you're gonna see just some of the, the oddities or whatever. So you see art imitating life or something way more sinister. So you see where it says, in the back of my mind, these are lyrics, in the back of my mind, you died and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear, and I'm sick of waiting patiently for someone that won't even arrive. In the back of my mind, I killed you and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true, I hate you. I used to love her, Killer Queen, the Kill, Romantic Homicide is the name of it. And then again, you see the little video over here with the blood and dragging the thing and the body, and the body in the video is him, so there's that, but nonetheless. So now this is another thing where it's like, okay, people do anything for attention these days, and this is obviously, gonna get attention. So it's one of these things where, is it a coincidence? Is this a like insight into his mind? Is he this demented person and he's like acting out this stuff in real life? Again, at the time of this recording, he's not been charged officially. Yes, he's a suspect or whatever, but this, this is very soon in the investigation and whatnot. But again, all these little things right here just kind of seem a little bit odd, especially for the general public like me who, like, we don't know him. So it's like, is this just a gimmick and this is just what his thing is, and it just doesn't, end well that some young lady, a child that was associated with him, is found dead in the trunk? I mean, time will tell. Okay, now the next image you're gonna see here on the screen is a couple of things. Well, number one, the very middle thing, him and his merch. So he was selling these bloody shirts as merch. Obviously, bad taste, took those off in light of things. Then this casket over here that he was doing for something, it's the same one that he, would be on stage during his show. All of these things is just, it's all adding up. Now, when I say it's all adding up, I'm not saying like, oh, and this adds up to, he unalived Celeste or whatever. But again, it's just, it's not in good taste in light of things, right? And again, it's one of these things where if we find out like unequivocally that he had something to do with this, well then, wow, like this weird obsession with death and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of these Hollywood types and whatnot you look at, and they do this stuff that's very based in imagery. It used to be, and I know I'm gonna sound old when I say this, but it used to be like raw talent would get you somewhere. And now it seems like, number one, you don't have to have raw talent, right? You like don't even have to really be able to sing. You can just make something. Well, even if you can sing or rap or whatever it is, it's almost like you have to be completely outlandish and over the top to stick out, because the market is so over inundated. So doing these shocking things like, I'm gonna sell bloody merch, I mean, right? Like it all just seems super extra. Okay, the next slide up here, you're gonna see this, and it has a quote. It's from an article in Eastern Eye from September 19th, 2025. You see at the bottom. Okay, it says a leaked demo track by D4vd titled Celeste has surfaced amid the investigation into the deaths of Celeste Hernández. The unfinished song, which first appeared online in December 2023, features intensely personal lyrics about a girl named Celeste, which now have taken on a haunting and disturbing new significance. And then you see the little thing here, the snippet with the quote in here, with the lyrics. "Oh, Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed. Afraid you'll only love me when undressed, but you look so damn gorgeous in that dress." Now, if this is indeed like it all comes out and all these dots are connected and whatnot, I mean, again, my first take here is, even if we find out he had nothing to do with the murder, this is creepy, okay? She's a kid. That part right there is absolutely just floors me. And connecting all of these dots, again, I'm like, if they can prove that he didn't have anything to do and there, with the murder, and there's no charges brought up against that, I am very curious to see if there are charges that are going to be brought up with this inappropriate relationship. Okay, so now that we've gone over some of that stuff in the last video and we've looked at some of these coincidences in this video, let's start getting into some of the new stuff that's come through, and let's talk about the first bombshell thing that came out of like, okay, he's officially been named a suspect, etc., etc. And let's go back to Ashley Banfield from News Nation. She's going to be talking to TMZ. Let's hear what they all have to say.
The robbery homicide unit and the investigators looking at this case are viewing this as a homicide and viewing David, the singer, as the suspect.
So are they thinking that there are more involved?
They believe there is more than one person involved in this based on the way and the manner in which the body was discovered.
Okay, now we're going to get more into the whole thing about how her body was discovered and whatnot, because at this point, or if you don't, we'll go ahead and talk about it. We talked about it in the last video, where all the reports came out talking about her. She was dismembered, she was frozen, this, that, and the other. And then the LAPD is like, no, that didn't happen that way. So at the time of this recording, it's very much up in the air or whatever. So police have confirmed that David made a trip to the Santa Barbara area sometime in the spring of 2025, around the time frame when Celeste was missing, and that this outing is now one of the threads they are actively examining. Now, investigators say they have evidence placing him in Santa Barbara County, but have not publicly explained why he went, who, if anyone, was with him, or exactly what he did there, only noting that the purpose and relevance of the trip in relation to Celeste's death, that remains under investigation with no official conclusions yet.
But they believe that it couldn't be the work of just one person. So we are told that in the spring of this year, I can't give you a month, I'm just told the spring, David went to a remote area of Santa Barbara County, which is about 100 miles from where he lives in Los Angeles, a remote area of Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night, and spent a couple of hours there. And that is a hugely important part of this case, the way I understand it.
Now, again, here's the thing. At this point, I'm honestly going to be surprised if he's not charged with something like in relation to the actual murder. Now, again, we don't know, okay, what happened in Santa Barbara? Was it, just a coincidence he went there? What was he doing? One thing, and again, I said this in the other video, I'll say it 100 times over. What's going to make this difficult is because of his, notoriety or his fame or whatever, probably being surrounded by lots of people, the comings and goings and this and that. It's going to muddy the water is what I'm getting at. Was there other people involved with this? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, right? Because, look at the situation. He was on tour. People are living at the house. People are coming and going. Like, it's a very kind of just, number one, not an appropriate place for a kid to be, number one. Number two, a lot of room for exploitation, a lot of room for murder.
What does the Santa Barbara trip mean? Remember, it's spring, and his body wasn't found until early September. So, her body, rather, early September. So we're talking months. So, you could theorize that maybe he went to try and bury a body. Maybe he would have gone to bury a weapon. But if it was a body, why was the body found in the trunk of his car in Los Angeles months and months later? Would they have gone and picked it up and brought it back?
So here's the thing too with this theory right here that he's talking about. And this is one question I have too. Why on earth would her body, regardless of the state it's found in, right? Why would her body be in his car, like abandoned near the house? Because remember what happened is the body is in the trunk of the Tesla. It's parked, what sounds to me like on a street nearby, but essentially like not like out in front of his house or whatever. And it's sat there for days and days till somebody like reports it like this is an abandoned car. So So it gets hauled off, and then very soon after, the people in the yard are like, this smells, you know, something's up with this, and they call the cop. Obviously, you know, a body is found. So it's almost like there is a part of it where it almost looks like a setup. You see what I'm saying? Now, if there wasn't all the evidence that was coming forth about his inappropriate relationship with her, I would almost lend myself more towards like he's being set up, because again, it makes no sense. Now, that being said, we're currently watching the Brian Walsh trial, and some of his Google searches were things like how to dispose of a body if you really need to. I mean, it's right. So what I'm getting at is, you know, people can be really stupid when they commit these crimes. Okay. So maybe he did move the body or transport it, and he was like, I'm going to go out of town. I'll put the body in my trunk. Maybe he instructed somebody else to do something and they left it parked there, and they're like, I'm not messing with that. I'm not getting my hands dirty. You know, and they just abandoned the plot. Time will tell.
Now, there are some people who are saying, well, wait a minute, maybe he took Celeste there and allegedly, you know, did her in there. The reason I don't think that's the case is we were told David went to Santa Barbara County, not they went to Santa Barbara County. And, you know, it makes me think, how would they know David went? If it was just a cell phone, I don't think what they would say David went. I think what we would get is his cell phone pinged in that area.
I'm going to 100% agree with that right there, because here's the thing. In this day and age with all the cell phone and cameras and stuff like that, if there was a chance that she was in the car, like visibly in the car, we would probably hear about it, right? Because this would be like a last known sighting or one of the sightings. Also with him saying like, yes, they're saying David went. So that tells me that they're like, they're not going to just put that out there, because what if it wasn't him? What if it was just a cell phone? You see where I'm going with that? So it does make me think, okay, he went. Now also I'm just like, it could be numerous things. Again, I am not familiar. I've never been to that part of California. I don't know. In my mind, what I'm envisioning is they're showing him going to some like desert type place, is what, for whatever reason, my mind latches onto. Now, if you're more familiar, you might be like, no, probably was like in the city or whatever. I don't know. I'm envisioning like just a very isolated place at nighttime. You know, maybe he went up there with the body to do something. Maybe he took, you know, crime scene weapons. But then it's like, well, why would you take that much care into it and then leave her in your car decomposing while you're off on tour, right? Like, what was the motive behind that? And that's where I really wonder if it was like somebody else was supposed to finish the job of disposal or something, and they just were like, no, and they hit the road. Or he had nothing to do with the murder. Someone there doing the house did, and they put him in and put her in the car. You see what I'm saying? And it also unearthed all the inappropriate stuff going on between Celeste and David. So it's almost like two things to be true at once.
We got the word David. That makes me think there is video from his Tesla, and that they have gotten into the Tesla. We know they have data from the Tesla, and maybe there is video showing him there, that they could track it there and they could see him there. And I don't know what it is that he did there, and it may well be that the LAPD knows, but we don't know yet. Well, and something big happened during that trip.
Okay, now this is the other thing too that I forget about. Okay, so I've never ridden in a Tesla. I've never been in a Tesla. I don't know how they work, okay? But to me, a Tesla would be the last car you would want to commit a crime in. Because in my mind, I'm like, those things are just like one big video camera and tracking device. Also, where the guy was saying at the end, like, you know, LAPD might be withholding this information. Here's the thing. Now, I know LAPD, you say that and you think of corruption. You think of all the cases we followed with it. Trust me, I get it, right? Regardless of the police department, most departments are going to withhold information for a very specific reason, and that's keeping keeping things going for whatever reason. Whether they don't want to scare somebody, whether they only want certain information so they can preserve the thing to make sure this person shouldn't know this about the cases, hasn't gone out to the public, all this type stuff. So 100% with this, 100% they're going to do that, right? Now, also you're talking about Hollywood people, so that's where you get into this crazy, you know, Diddy, Epstein, all this like creepy Hollywood stuff that we see taking place and being exposed in the last years. So this, to me, I'm just like, yeah, all this weirdness surrounding this just seems to be standard protocol, right? In that world, in that business. And, you know, no offense to people who might be in that in a non-nefarious way. I'm sure there are people out there like that. But this story, this happening just seems to be par for the course. Now that brings us up to the part where this, you know, explosive stuff comes out about her remains. You know, we knew they were in the trunk, but then it's, oh my gosh, she was frozen, she's dismembered, this, that, and the other. So early on, some outlets and online commentators claimed that Celeste's body had been frozen and even decapitated before it was found in David's Tesla. And those details, well, you can imagine they quickly went viral in all the true crime spaces. Now, in response, LAPD's robbery homicide captain put out a very direct statement saying that, guess what? Those claims are wrong. Police say her remains were not frozen and she was not decapitated. And they've publicly called the freezing/decapitation narrative, quote, false and, quote, misinformation. However, they are keeping the precise condition of the body and any dismemberment details sealed under the court order security hold.
In particular, the LAPD is throwing some cold water, a lot of it, on explosive reporting that just came out this weekend. A bunch of reporting that Celeste's body had likely been frozen, possibly frozen for months before being transferred to the trunk of the Tesla. Sources told several outlets that Celeste had been decapitated, that her limbs had been removed from her torso, cut into pieces, and then apparently stored in a freezer. Tonight, the captain of the robbery homicide division of the LAPD tells People magazine that the reports are not true. Captain Scott Williams tells People that Celeste was not frozen and that, quote, Celeste was not decapitated. The whole frozen thing doesn't even make sense. Her body was in the car for weeks, he said. And he added, quote, even if she had been frozen solid when she was put in the car, which there is no evidence to suggest that she was, 5 or more weeks in the trunk of a car in sweltering heat in the middle of summer would have not resulted in a partially frozen body being discovered on September 8th, end quote.
Okay, so here's my question about this. Okay, let's pretend that there's some half-truths in here, right? Let's pretend that it comes out that she was frozen but moved to the car and then obviously would have been thawed out, but the timeline was off or whatever. I mean, I feel like that could still happen. You see what I'm saying? Because one thing that I feel, well, no, because at the end of the day, well, I guess this is the timeline I'm looking at. If she was murdered elsewhere and frozen, and then somebody was going to move her body and they got David's car and put her body in the trunk and then abandoned the car. That basically is what I'm getting at. And then obviously a body's going to thaw out, all the things are going to happen. Now, this would be easily dismantled or proven when, you know, everybody knows the state of decomposition, right? But all of this is kind of being held tight. And again, it is what it is. It's like the investigation is going on. You know, but again, and I'm curious what, if any, theories y'all have in the comment section, because more and more I'm lending myself more towards, I do believe multiple people were involved and it could have been one person killed, others were trying to help cover up, multiple people killed, who knows? But it feels like, and when I say a job abandoned, it feels like her being in the car and abandoned, that was supposed to be something taken over by somebody, because it doesn't make sense that he would leave her in the car, go on tour, be away, and just be like, I guess this will just sort itself out later, right? It also doesn't make sense that if she was frozen, it would be like, oh, we'll just put her in the car and leave. None of that makes sense, right? Now, again, I'll say this one more time. I know I've said it before. You know, it could be like, well, Paul, he's being set up, or well, he had this highly inappropriate relationship with her. What if that was going to come out major public? We don't know. But that's where I just feel like we're going to find out that this was more than one person involved and that somebody dropped the ball, so to speak.
Tonight, the LA Medical Examiner's Office, the people who did the autopsy on Celeste, they say they're being officially barred by court order from saying anything about her death. And that it was the LAPD that asked the court to do that, to gag the ME. And if you find that outrageous, like I do, the ME is not thrilled about this either. Okay,
so that part is weird to me, because why would you do that? So this is my non-professional opinion. There's clearly something up with the remains, with the situation with the body, that they're not wanting the public to know for a variety of reasons. I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? But it could be because maybe there is some truth to the situation as to how she was found, and they're trying to basically keep that locked down because only certain people would know about it. And there might be a situation with the body, with the remains, that it's like only the killer or killers would know of this. So we don't want anybody finding out, right? It's very odd to me that they're doing this as well. But in one way it's not, because I'm like, this might be their only thing. Like, it could have been a situation where some major information got leaked out, and they're trying to put a lockdown on it immediately.
Just to confirm or deny certain reports, no answer, not talking. So People magazine has an in, and they got that report exclusively. But I want to tell you something else. A lot of people corroborated the reports this weekend about the frozen body parts, the decapitation, the limbs being cut up. That was a lot of media outlets using their sources to get confirmation. So it's very, very strange that there are sources confirming all of this and one captain of the robbery homicide unit at the LAPD knocking it all down. Or did he knock it all down?
So Ashley brings up a good point here, and it's true. This doesn't sound like these are just some random allegations made. Now, also on one level, you can see how things just spread to the true crime world. However, there's multiple versions of the true crime world that this seems to have gone through. Usually it's like a pocket, whether it's the true crime, the mainstream media type stuff, because this is obviously one that's made it to mainstream media. And when I say true crime world, I'm often thinking of the world that we are here, where we follow these on a daily basis, like that kind of thing, trials and all that. So versus people who just watch documentaries versus people who just watch TMZ versus people, you see what I'm saying? This is kind of spread everywhere, right? And so that's where I feel like there is some truth to how her remains were. What those were, I do not know. I feel like this is probably way more grisly than we thought, is what I'm getting at. And that there's a reason why they're locking this down, and they're like, we don't want anyone knowing anything. And this is probably going to be, once some arrests are made, because I feel like we're getting close to that, our jaws are going to be on the ground even more than they already are. Now, recently, there's been even more updates, and that is about the grand jury. A Los Angeles County investigative grand jury is now reviewing evidence in Celeste's death. Now, this is a big escalation from regular detective work. Prosecutors from the LA District Attorney's Office have been presenting witnesses and materials behind closed doors, and court paperwork with a GJ number confirms the panel exists, and then an LAPD detective has formally described the case as an investigation into murder. Now, this type of grand jury, they can't indict on its own, but they can subpoena witnesses, gather evidence, and recommend charges. So its involvement strongly signals that prosecutors are weighing serious criminal charges against one or more people tied to how Celeste's body ended up in David's Tesla.
There's a big circle around David, and my guess is the LAPD wants to talk to a bunch of them and others connected and not connected to David. When police come a-calling, a lot of times people clam up, and they clam up because they want to protect themselves, they want to protect a friend, they get scared. Lawyer says don't talk to them. What an investigative grand jury can do is say, we're going to subpoena you. And unless you assert your Fifth Amendment rights, unless you have something that would incriminate you, you got to answer our questions. So these investigative grand juries are often used in cases where the LAPD or other police departments are having trouble getting information from witnesses. So that's why, to me, it's unsurprising that they've called this investigative grand jury. Plus, they can subpoena documents, videos, things like that.
Now, here's the thing. Again, yeah, like he said, it doesn't surprise me because, again, you're dealing with Hollywood people, famous people, lots of money, people probably, remaining closed-lipped. Also, if the acquaintances of his are like, we thought she was 19, we thought this, there could be other people that they're not wanting their own BS, their own crimes to come to the surface in this, right? What I think is a component of this is that clearly a murder happened, right? I mean, come on. A murder happened, a cover-up happened. It's a matter of who and what did it. Now, also in the peripheral of this, you're going to have a bunch of people who are probably doing some pretty sketchy stuff, right? I mean, just alone, again, I'll say this a million times over in this case, if he is cleared of any murder charges, he was still getting up with a kid. There's major issues there, okay? So if other people in that circle are pulling stuff like this, you can only fathom. Now, again, we might find out that he's some mastermind behind this side or the other, and he had this person do this and that person do this and this person do this, and they're all helping cover up some sinister murder. We don't know. But obviously, the grand jury getting involved in doing this is going to bring all that to light. Now, let's close out and hear from people who knew her, who last saw her, who have memories of her.
I'm feeling heartbroken, devastated for hearing about the news. I didn't know Celeste personally, but it hits home.
Former classmates, friends Celeste grew up with, and parents, all shaken by her death. A Lake Elsinore neighbor recalls seeing Celeste walking home from school before she ran away. She created the memorial, giving everyone a place to grieve.
Even though I didn't know her, I just couldn't even breathe, knowing that a child had to go through that.
My nephew went to school with her since kindergarten, And I just want to say, just as a whole, just if it was my daughter, I wouldn't want her to be forgotten. I just want justice for this little girl, because whatever happened to her, it wasn't just an accident. I don't want her to be forgotten.
I think that's a beautiful thing to say. I don't want her to be forgotten, because that's what this feels like, right? And I'm not saying that she's been forgotten or whatever, but it feels like there's so many questions. Why was she with this person? How did this happen? What was going on to where she was wanting to run away so much? And these cases, these stories, these victims like this often fall through the cracks, right? And I can see, I mean, nobody wants this to happen to her as well. This is however we find out that she made it into the Tesla, it is a horrifying way to die, especially for someone, I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are, but obviously this is a kid who had a whole life ahead of her, right? And to end up like garbage in somebody's Tesla while they're on tour, no. And then the whole story that comes up around it, it's over the top. So I'm curious to hear from you. First of all, do you think that David did it? Remember, this is all alleged at this point where, you know, he has not been formally charged. Do you think he had something to do with it? Do you think other people were involved? Do you think that this was like a scenario of somebody else was supposed to dispose of the body? He's going to be over here. You go do this, and they fell through, or whatever took place. So let me know down in the comment section below, pretty please. And while you are down there, if you could, drop off some little sofas, some little pillows, whatever you want to do for Roscoe and Spirit, the boys who are both sleeping on their little heating pads over there, myself, and you, the most important, the Sofa Squad. You make the channel possible. I am greatly appreciative of it, and I wouldn't be here without you. And so until myself, the boys, Roscoe and Spirit, you, everybody, jumps down in the comment section to go over all this stuff we've been talking about, I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.